The natural segue, I think, would be to something that you shared in one of your videos, and this is going to be in the show notes for everybody to watch. I've watched it probably at least 50 times,
Whoa.
and because it's like I was telling you this the other day, that video, this particular video, was kind of the impetus for the idea of the podcast to come into my mind because really, before I ask this question. The performing arts medicine or performing artist health game has changed quite a bit over the last 30 years. And I've seen a lot of great information. I mean, of course, granted, I didn't learn about any of this information until after my injury, but that's besides the point. A lot of that focus is still on the physical side of like, what are the physical prevention tips or whatever techniques for each instrument, for each artist, to keep them healthy. That is so needed, and I'm so grateful that is becoming on the forefront of our discourses as musicians. But I still hadn't found a ton of things that were in line with what we have talked about, what we've worked on together, and what's in this video of the psychological side of what goes into injuring yourself. And I'm talking mostly overuse injuries, anything that happens while you're playing. Because, I've had people on the show who have gotten hit in the face by a skateboard. There's not much you can do to prevent that. I mean,
yeah,
in the moment,
thing,
different type of thing. But the vast majority of overuse injuries, there is an underlying reason. And something that you say in the video is that if we don't do the work to change not only the culture, but also I'm paraphrasing, but the mindset of the individual musician, even though we may teach them the right pedagogical principles that that will help them prevent injury, and those are working. This is what blew my mind. Even if those are working, eventually, if that inner work has not been done, they could very well end up in the same situation or a very similar situation of injury. And so I just invite you to kind of dive into that. I know in that video you talk a lot about trauma and how that informs this principle.
Yeah. Well, what immediately comes to mind for me is, I've spent the last 4 years like really immersing myself in trying to understand the nature of trauma and on a psychological side. That was my pandemic project that is still going. But one of the brilliant authors that I love is Gabor Maté.
Yeah.
And he frames it so simply and succinctly that for me as a musician, I just immediately recognize what he was talking about. But he basically says there are two basic human needs. One is attachment and the other is authenticity. And so he defines attachment as just like the need to maintain relationships, right? As humans, we need to keep certain relationships just to survive as children. And then authenticity, he defines not as, and that's a dangerous word, I think, today, because that's like all over like social media and there are all these like, be your authentic self and all that.
You do you.
You do you. But when he says authenticity, I love one of his definitions of that resonates with me a lot is it's nothing more or less than the capacity to be aware of what your instincts and feelings are and to act accordingly. It's like that's the really simple definition of authenticity.
Would it be oversimplifying it real quick? Would it be oversimplifying to say that attachment is external and authenticity is internal?
I think that does oversimplify it just a little bit because the nature of the attachment occurs inside of us. Although it is related to an external object, right? So I think it's a yes and kind of thing.
Sure.
It's like we really, as much as we would love to bifurcate our experience into internal and external, I think, as musicians especially, the more we perform with people, the more we become aware of just how connected those two supposedly separate realms are. So I do think that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but maybe a useful one. But the idea then is that for most of us, if not all of us, at some point we gave up our authenticity in order to maintain attachment relationships. So if you think about that in the context of like a common scenario for an injury is like one musician who feels a desire to maintain an important attachment relationship to someone else, be it a teacher or a peer or a colleague. And out of that desire to maintain that relationship, they ignore some kind of foundational, authentic cue and they override it. That's when we injure ourselves, right? It's like when we give up that authentic cue from the body or from the instinct, then we get into trouble. And so I just thought that was such a valuable way to frame it. And it changed the way that I saw myself in those situations. And you can feel it when you're in that mindset where what you're desperate for is maintaining an attachment relationship that you value. And you're performing. For me, my body will go into a fight or flight response. Like I'll finish a solo and my heart will be pounding in my throat. Well, it can only go there if I perceive an actual threat.
Right.
I can only go into that response if I feel a threat to a relationship that I value. And so as I mature, I feel like what my practice is choosing to value my own authenticity. When it comes down to that choice between the two, when you do actually have to make a choice, learning to choose to trust your own intuition is foundational to staying well.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Trust the Process, the official podcast of Musician Unchained, the newest coaching program dedicated to helping musicians navigate and overcome injury. But before you go, I have a few quick ways you can stay connected and support our growing community. First of all, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a text with the link below and share your thoughts, questions, or just say hi. You can also check the show out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We also would love to see you in our Facebook support group, Trust the Process Podcast Injured Musician Support Group. If you found value in today's episode, consider making a donation to support our mission of empowering musicians worldwide. Every contribution helps us create more content and resources for you. So visit link number 2 below to support the mission. If you decide to donate, I'll send you my newest resource, the Injured Musician Toolkit, which is an ebook designed to give you tools to help you get through your injury. Subscribe to our newsletter to get exclusive insights, tips, sneak previews of episodes, and announcements straight to your inbox. Act now and I will send you a free gift. So sign up at www.musicianunchained.com/newsletter. And if you or someone you know would like to go deeper with me in the topics of injury and mindset, head over back to musicianunchained.com and check out the Let's Hang tab. As always, I want to thank Daniel Baldwin, my audio engineer, and my sister Dana Lovell for her help with the promotional materials. There is no podcast without them. Before I go, I want to tell you how much I deeply appreciate your time and support. You are not alone on this journey. There are musicians and educators out there who need this resource, and we need to get it to them. Together, we are breaking the chain of old habits and thought patterns that don't serve us anymore, and unchaining the potential within ourselves to face each challenge with strength and resilience. So, as I always say, keep on keeping on, and keep trusting the process. Until next time.